What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlemania here, back with another video. Here are the 10 worst WWE pay-per-views of all time, and Wrestlemaniacs, these are in no particular order. Number 1. Wrestlemania 4. Fans who watched our recent videos ranking the first 32 WrestleManias know that this one didn't fare well in our evaluation. Nearly 30 years later, fans are still wondering how the WWF took what could have been an exciting 14-man tournament to crown a new WWF champion and turned it into an endurance challenge, with many fans saying no mas, and changing the channel to Jim Crockett Promotions' free show Clash of the Champions. The tournament matches were mostly forgettable, with several coming in at 5 minutes or less. The final round between Randy Savage and Ted DiBiase was good, but the show could, and more importantly, should have been much better. Number 2. WrestleMania 9. Fans will forever debate which was worse. Hulk Hogan bigfooting his way into a WWF Championship match after Bret Hart dropped the belt to Yokozuna, or Giant Gonzalez making his way to the ring in a Bigfoot suit for his alleged match against The Undertaker. Giant Gonzalez was so bad in the ring, he had fans wondering if Paul Bearer hadn't embalmed him before the match. The Undertaker won by disqualification after Giant Gonzalez tried to chloroform his way to victory, just one of 2 disqualifications on the show. Hogan went on to win the WWF Championship, defeating Yokozuna moments after the big man beat Bret Hart. The undercard did have the highlight of a Tatanka vs Shawn Michaels match for Michaels Intercontinental Championship, but the screwy countout win for Tatanka along with the 2 other DQs made the event seem like a glorified Saturday night's main event. Doink vs Crush had fans heading for the concession stand and fans at home questioning why they'd bothered to order the show. Number 3. WrestleMania 11. The WWF's flagship show should have had its flag at half-mast, given how bad the company was doing at the time. Just the year before, the WWF had shown it could put on an entertaining WrestleMania, without longtime favourites like Hulk Hogan. However, this year McMahon gambled on a main event of Bam Bam Bigelow against NFL star Lawrence Taylor. While the match wasn't the disaster some predicted, it wasn't main event worthy. The Michaels vs Diesel match before should have main evented the show, as it was one of the company's best matches all year. Still, the rest of the show was garbage, despite the presence of some good workers. Bob Backlund grappled with Bret Hart in an eye that largely featured boring submission holds and fans wanting to submit after a few minutes of guest referee Rowdy Piper babbling on the microphone. Razor Ramon vs Jeff Jarrett proved flat, as did the surprise team of Yokozuna and Owen Hart squashing the Smoking Guns. The Allied Powers team of Lex Luger and the British Bulldog battled the Blue Brothers in a match that didn't even belong on Monday Night Raw, let alone the WWF's flagship event. Number 4. The King of the Ring 1995. 1995 was arguably the worst year in wrestling from the last 35 years, both for WCW and the WWF. WCW scraped the bottom of the barrel with its 1995 uncensored show, and the WWF had an equally bad, if not worse, pay-per-view in the form of that year's King of the Ring. While the 2 words King Mabel are all we need to say, let's remind you of how bad the entire show was. The King of the Ring saw wrestlers such as Savio Vega, Kama, Bob Holly, and the Roadie participating for the crown. As bad as that was, the big man with an even bigger lack of talent, Mabel, pinned The Undertaker to advance to the finals, defeating Savio Vega for the title of King of the Ring. Jerry Lawler's Kiss My Foot match with Bret the Hitman Hart was a waste of both men's time. Did we also mention Kama wrestled Shawn Michaels to a time limit draw? The best part of the show was that it was held in Philadelphia, and ECW fans showed up with noticeable ECW chants, leading to Vince McMahon eventually copying ECW and ushering in the Attitude Era. Number 5. December to Dismember 2006. What happens when you take a beloved franchise and give it the Cleveland Steamer treatment? No, we're not talking about bad film remakes like the Pink Panther or Total Recall. We're talking about Vince McMahon's misguided attempt to mold the original ECW into his own version. The end result was the December to Dismember show, a show that had as much in common with the original Extreme Championship Wrestling as the rap group NWA did with the National Wrestling Alliance. With ECW originals like Mike Knox, Kevin Thorne, Davari, Elijah Burke, and Sylvester Takei on the show, how could it go wrong? Oh wait, none of them were ECW originals, and several of them won matches over the actual ECW originals like Tommy Dreamer, Lil Guido, and Tony Mamaluke. Just to piss off any ECW fans who tuned in, the WWE booked the 6-man Extreme Elimination Chamber match with 5 WWE stars: Lashley, CM Punk, Tess, The Big Show, and Hardcore Holly, and only one ECW original, Rob Van Dam, putting the belt on Bobby Lashley. With the show coming in at just over 2 hours, fans weren't sure if they should count themselves lucky or ripped off. Number 6. Battleground 2013. Battleground is a good example of why what should have been a good pay-per-view turned into something you'd find at a house show with lackluster bouts like Cesaro and Jack Swagger versus the Great Khali and Santino Marella. Traditionally, wrestling promoters have made fans pay to see finishes for the main event, teasing them with disqualifications or countouts on TV. However, at Battleground, the main event match between Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan for the vacant WWE Championship ended in a no contest when Big Show interfered, knocking both superstars out with his WMD. This show was panned by fans and won the Wrestling Observer's Worst Major Wrestling Show Award for 2013. Number 7. The Great American Bash 2004. The Great American Bash contains many fond memories for WCW fans, so perhaps the WWE hoped to bring back lapsed WCW fans by reviving it. Unfortunately, someone forgot to tell the company to put on pay-per-view quality matches and not forgettable TV level bouts like Mordecai vs Hardcore Holly, Sable vs Tori Wilson, or Luther Reigns vs Charlie Haas. JBL's surprise WWE Championship win over Eddie Guerrero in a bull rope match was both bloody and brutal, giving the show a glimmer of hope. However, the main event handicap match between The Undertaker and WWE Tag Team Champions, the Dudley Boys, not only made the Dudleys look weak, but left fans scratching their heads when the victorious Undertaker pulled a switch on Bearer, burying him alive. WWE.com would later report that Bearer had survived, suffering catastrophic injuries, but not as catastrophic as SmackDown's reputation after this show. Number 8. In Your House 4. The WWF's mini pay-per-view is best remembered as the night Shawn Michaels vacated the Intercontinental Championship, reportedly due to injuries he suffered. The WWF awarded the belt to Dean Douglas, then had Douglas drop the belt to Razor Ramon. Goldust made his in-ring debut against Marty Jannetty, but few cared. The main event between WWF Champion and the British Bulldog was even less than you'd expect, particularly due to Bret Hart interfering in the match and getting Diesel disqualified. The rest of the card showed just how bad the WWF's talent roster was at the time, as Hunter Hearst Helmsley battled Fatu, the Smoking Guns defeated the 1-2-3 Kid and Razor Ramon, and King Mabel and Yokozuna stumbled through a 5-minute mess that resembled two Brontosauruses wrestling. It's surprising there was an In Your House 5 after this. Number 9. Bragging Rights 2010. The concept of a pay-per-view pitting Raw stars against SmackDown superstars seemed interesting, but its execution was absolutely terrible. Many of the matches looked like classics on paper, but poor performances or wonky finishes like the main event between WWE Champion Randy Orton and Nexus leader Wade Barrett ruined them. John Cena's forced allegiance to the Nexus backfired on Barrett, making Barrett and the rest of the Nexus look like saps. Impromptu matches like Ted DiBiase vs Goldust and the Nexus David Otunga and John Cena vs WWE Tag Team Champions Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre might have helped the show if fans actually knew about them. The end result was a show that was nothing to brag about, either for the fans or WWE, as Bragging Rights received 137 buys, down from 181,000 the previous year. And number 10. No Way Out 2007. Fans wondered if No Way Out referred to how they'd been stuck with a pay-per-view bill for a show that carried very few pay-per-view caliber matches. John Cena and Shawn Michaels vs The Undertaker and Batista was a true main event, but other than the Cruiserweight Open between Chavo Guerrero, Gregory Helms, Scotty 2 Hotty, Daivari, Funaki, Shannon Moore, Jimmy Wang Yang, and Jamie Noble, the show was unremarkable. Well guys, there you have it. The 10 worst WWE pay-per-views of all time. And no, we aren't just gonna pick on the WWE, there's also WCW, and maybe even TNA. Just remember, we're now producing 5 videos per week, including a new episode of Behind the Titantron every Wednesday. Be sure to support us on Patreon, subscribe if you already haven't, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.